Okay, hello everybody. Kylis, and with me I have Tyler Preston Swincy. How are you,
I'm
Tyler?
great, Ren. How are you doing?
I am good. How this is more weird than Google Hangout because I think Google Hangouts didn't it already like give you a link to the YouTube channel, but I guess I could always manually go to my YouTube channel and
Yeah,
send out.
the thing about Google Hangout was that when you clicked on the option button, you can actually go to the link to send it to people. Whereas for StreamYard, you have to go back to like the main page, then copy the link, then send it to people. So it's less convenient that way.
Yes, I have to go to my YouTube channel and go to my YouTube channel and just manually give people the link.
Yeah, that's the only thing I don't like
Um,
about StreamYard, but otherwise it seems as though that StreamYard is just more or less the same as Google Hangout.
okay. I uh, I got the link and I am going to send it out to everybody. And you could retweet me or you could tweet it out yourself. It doesn't matter which.
Okay.
And while I'm busy doing that, you were talking about how you were locked down on yeah, you were on lockdown.
Yeah. So what's been going on? I can't talk about your state. I can only talk about what's going on in Maryland. But as far as the lockdowns going on right now, we it's been crazy. We're required to wear the mask when we go inside of stores or like restaurants or any type of business that's considered to be essential. And so it's been crazy. Like a lot of people is like for the last few days right now, I noticed there's been abundance of traffic. I also noticed that like of course sometimes like the employees and stuff they start to wear gloves too. Like if you have to do like a cash transaction, they have the gloves, and of course if you swipe the card, you have to use some sort of machine, and then you swipe it that way. And so it seems as though like of course many people around me are taking it seriously. But it seems as though when I see news about like what's going on in Florida or all these protests going on, I guess with Black Lives Matter or with Antifa, that a lot of these people they're not taking it seriously because I heard from a story a while back once like the protesters, not protesters, but like spring breakers were like in Florida. A lot of people got affected that way. And so it seems as though, as I speak right now, Florida has the highest number of people who are infected with the coronavirus. I even remember like some sort of clip I saw just a while back of all these people just lining up complaining about the mask mandates for Florida, saying, well, you see, God gave me like the perfect breathing system. That's why we don't need a mask. And when I watched that clip for the first time, I was like, oh my, are you serious? Like, it's important to, be thoughtful about other people. We know that, like, the virus, it could actually, we cannot really see the virus, but it can spread, like, through close contact and stuff. And so the mask is actually there to, prevent any further spread. But when I saw these people just, complaining about the mask mandate in Florida, I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I
But
wanted to screen share something with you, but it's kind of this. I'm sorry to everybody. This is more confusing than the regular Google Hangouts where screen sharing with Google Hangout it's a lot easier. But I wanted to screen share something by Sticks Hexenhammer, and I just wanted people to see it for themselves. So I'll try again. Um,
So what you have to do, you have to open a tab, you press screen share, and then you click the tab on which
Oh,
one
can
you
you
want.
see it?
Yeah.
Can you see it? Okay, it's like I don't know anyone who died of the coronavirus. I don't even know anyone who caught it. And it's like,
What? Uh, what the heck? I mean, according to like, I forgot the exact number of people who actually died from the coronavirus, but I know it's like somewhere in the millions.
yeah, it's like not only that, but I mean, it's kind of a lot like I've even like spoke out against the corona. Like I expressed
Mm.
my concern about it, and it is somebody I don't think I can say who because they privatized their accounts, but they were like, "Did you know that more people die of cancer than the coronavirus?" Let me see if I can find the tweets. I mean, it's their accounts is set to private, so it's not like I'll be able to screen share because it's like going to be a
I
violation.
mean, I think like in general, just because you don't know someone who was affected by the virus doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It's just, I mean, people of course have families who also got the virus, and one of the symptoms for people when they get the virus, like sometimes, of course, it's not the obvious symptoms, but like if a person, still looks fine, they can still have the virus, but they don't have the symptoms. And so, just because a person doesn't know anybody directly, it doesn't mean the phenomenon is not happening.
I think
If
I
that's
what was the Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it looks like I took a screenshot of it. And it's kind of like, oh, let's see. This person said cancer, heart disease, injury, stroke, COPD, diabetes, Alzheimer's, liver disease, flu, and suicide all outnumber COVID-19. Were you living in fear of all these yesterday? Source Florida Health. Please note flu is always higher. So this person's like the flu is what you're saying that the flu is worse than COVID-19. No, I did hear that, like when the flu was new, like when the Spanish flu was new, it killed a lot of people. But since then, we have a lot of the flu shots and medicines to address the flu.
Yeah, right now we don't have any sort of, to my knowledge, right now at least, any kind of vaccine to cure the virus. And so that's why they advertise us to just wear the mask and keep social distancing to further spread the virus. But like I said before, is like people just are just protesting, just eating at a restaurant with no mask as if nothing is happening. And it's kind of worrisome. It kind of worrisome because like it kind of tells me like even if we find like a vaccine for the virus, like even if there was like something like even worse than what we're experiencing right now, that people are still gonna do whatever just because it's inconvenient to them. But I think the inconvenience right now is just temporarily because I think people need to actually think about the long run of things. Like, of course, it's kind of uncomfortable for a brief second or minute to just go inside a store to wear the mask and stuff. But you have to also think about the people around you. And I think a lot of these arguments just come down to personal selfishness. Like, it's all about me, 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 me. But what about the rest of humanity? Like, I think it's important to care about other people and to be considerate when dealing with some sort of problem like this.
Yeah, like I
Like,
even saw somebody on Twitter that was hello, my only black friends. Hi guys, by Tom Leach. Hello, Tom Leach. Uh, did you see the chat?
I do see the chat. It's basically yeah, it's like right here on the sidebar. Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't sure, or if I sounded weird or not. Anyway, yeah, like when I was on Twitter, there was this guy who was like, and I'm not kidding. This guy said that we don't even need a vaccine for the coronavirus because he said only 1% of the world was affected. So it's like, why do we need a vaccine for her?
Wow. I just I'm lost for words for that. Like the whole purpose is that we don't further spread it. That's like the main reason why we would have a vaccine is to not have the virus. So that's like a really dumb question. As soon as they announce a vaccine, I'll be the first person in line to get the vaccine. If anybody else don't want to get the vaccine, that's up to you. I'm getting mine. I'm not taking any chances.
Yeah, I would take the vaccine. I mean, I would at least like wait till a little bit to see if there's any negative side effects, because it would take a while for negative side effects to show up. But I'll get the vaccine. But like you don't want the cure to be worse than the disease.
Exactly. Like it's just so sad to hear like the whole entire origin about the coronavirus stuff. Like I'm not sure like what is true, what is not true. Like I heard different conflicting stories. Like I heard like stories about it coming from a bat. Then I heard stories about a laboratory. Like I don't know where it came from, how it came from, what it came from. All I know is that it's here, and we should probably fight against it.
Yeah, I mean, I heard the same things. Like I wrote here, it was made in a Chinese laboratory. I heard it came from a bat. I heard all sorts of theories on it. So I don't know what the truth is. All I know is that it's deadly.
Yeah, it's like when humanity starts to, have like it seems as though that humanity just try to outdo each other for like, the worst possible diseases going on. Like before that it was like Ebola, and then before Ebola there was probably something else like the flying swoo. And so it seems as though when it comes down to diseases, we tend to out top the other diseases.
Yeah, when it comes to well, have you seen Bill Maher talk about it? I don't know if you heard Maher talk about it. Now he was saying that it comes from eating bats. He says that if the Chinese keep doing that to sanction China, and we should probably sanction China anyway because of what they're doing to the Uyghur Muslims.
Now, I'm not sure if it came from bats or if it didn't came from bats. All I know that in general, people should probably stop eating exotic food because it's like the whole entire idea of the wet markets just sickens me because it's like a lot of possible cross contamination going on there. And so I think in general, people should probably stop having the wet markets in China. As far as like the whole entire issue about human rights in China is just atrocious when you really think about it. Well, besides of course like the concentration camps that you mentioned about the Muslims, there's also like I remember for a long period of time of hearing news about the what was it, the one child policy, where they basically would only force people to just have one kid and that's it. And then I also remember hearing about, like, of course, what's happening with, like, the issue of free speech. Like, as far as social media is concerned, only China, like, the Chinese social media is only available. Like, if you were to just go outside of China's social media, you need some sort of, thing to block your IP to go to those sites. And then also, like, I remember, like, there was, like, this criticism where they compared the guy to Winnie the Pooh, and so they just banned Winnie the Pooh. It was so silly. And of course, like, free speech is practically, like, non existent there, too. Like, if you just, criticize anything with the Chinese Communist Party, of course, jail or death. And also, besides, yeah, you mentioned the Muslims. So, another thing that really concerns me about China right now is what's happening in Hong Kong. Because I remember reading some sort of news article, just it was talking about how what's happening in Hong Kong. Like, if you were to like protest or criticize the Communist Party, you would also it's also be illegal to do that. And also, if it also applies to foreigners too, like if you were like living in United States or outside of Hong Kong or China, then you would not be allowed to enter into China if you were to criticize the government. And so it's kind of sad what's going on in China to me. I think like there's like a lot of cool aspect about Chinese culture. I like the Chinese food. I like these movies like with the martial arts. Like I think there's like a lot of aspects of China that I personally like. But man, man, when it comes down to the whole entire government and how they do stuff, it's like, holy crap, they need to chill out.
Yeah, I agree with you, but that is also why I think that we should put sanctions on China because China is guilty of a bunch of human rights abuses, like, how they treat the Muslims in China. Or also, I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary called Empire of Dust. We know with Chinese going to Africa and whatnot. And I mean, Empire of Dust, it's some really spicy stuff. I mean,
I
everything that
mean,
they.
I heard about them going to Africa, but I haven't seen the documentary, but I heard about it though.
Oh, well, I mean, there are certain things said in the documentary that I don't even think that I could repeat on YouTube because it's just that spicy, you know. Um, At most, I mean, I think that I could say that, the Africans were complaining about the Chinese comparing them to apes and monkeys and whatnot.
Yeah, like it's not the first time I heard about racism against black people from Chinese people because I remember reading a story about McDonald's where they had a sign that says like no black people allowed in the McDonald's. And so it was like a huge controversy, rightfully so. And so it's not the first time I probably heard of such a story like that from like China against black people.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard of the no black people allowed sign in McDonald's as well. Chinese people, they don't like, blacks or Muslims or whatnot. Um, yeah.
It's so sad. Like, it's kind of sad that here we are. We're trying to fight against like racism in the United States. We actually have a real case of racism where people are being judged based upon their skin color, and so in comparison to what we have here, like we are like nothing in compared to like how like how China treats black people and how they view them.
But I think that the woke crowd makes things worse because the woke crowd turns everything into a parody. Because it's like, remember the incident where there was a white girl who wore a Chinese dress and a bunch of white people act like it's the worst thing ever? When, I mean, it's not like she was wearing, it wasn't like she was mocking the Chinese. She looked really beautiful and really stylish. It would be one thing if she was making a mockery of it, like if she looked clownish or cartoonish, but she wore this really sexy Chinese dress and she looked really sexy in it. And there were actually two cases like that. One with some random college girl, another with a celebrity's wife, where there's this guy like Sebastian, and his wife was dressed like a geisha girl, but she looked really beautiful in it. It's not like she looked, like a joke. It's not like she was like mocking them or trying to look really, really bad to mock them. She looked really beautiful and really stunning. But it's like so much as wearing a Chinese dress, looking as pretty as possible, it's still racism, which makes light of actual racism.
The thing about the whole entire issue about cultural appropriation, I think the whole concept is just stupid. Like, I think the idea of exchanging ideas and language and exchanging like different parts of culture is beautiful because this is what United States was really founded on. Like we were founded by immigrants. We have different types of subcultures, and so people peacefully coexist for the most part among each other. And so I don't see what's wrong when people, want to have like certain aspect of cultures that they want to appreciate. Like some of my favorite food are not, stuff like the hamburgers or hot dogs, but like, the Mexican food or, like the pizza, like of course Mexican like Mexico and of course like the pizza from Italy. And of course just right now, I just had Chinese food. And so the fact that I could live in a country where there's like so many people just, united together and we could share our cultures and, learn from different people, I find it to be beautiful. But getting back to your story about the Chinese dress, there is this other story I saw last week about a video game. It was like for the PS4. I like the Ghost of Toshiba, I think that's the name of the game. And so what happened for the game was that it was developed by a company called Sucker Punch. And Sucker Punch is known for Sly Cooper games and also Infamous. And so it's based in the United States. And so the people were complaining about, oh my god, how can an American company could make a game about like ancient Japan? But as soon as the game was released into like Japanese markets, Japanese content creators and people just loved it. It became like one of the highest rated games from a Western studio over there. I believe it got like a 40 out of 40 for like a famous Japanese magazine. And so here we have, of course, Japanese people loving how, we did our own kind of take for Japanese culture to dig it up. Whereas the people over here, like the Asian people who were complaining about cultural appropriation, they got upset because it was made by a Western studio. So it didn't make any sense to me when I saw that news.
Oh, you're saying that it was Asian Americans upset about the Ghost of Tsushima, but
Yeah.
Japanese people in Japan. Yeah, I think it's because of celebratory victimhood. Like America tends to train people to be professional victims. It's kind of like, because of course it's like I'm not too surprised that Japanese people from Japan will be a lot like, oh my goodness, this is great and awesome, because like when you really think about it, if you look at anime, they have like blonde hair and blue-eyed anime. So, but then again, you have, SJWs complaining that, the Japanese have blonde hair, blue-eyed characters. Like, show your own. And then the weird part is they if that video that went very viral, that viral, like the woke guy and the racist guy, and they agree on absolutely everything. And they're like, this is a straw man. This is absolutely a straw man. And like a bunch of the left got angry.
Yeah, the thing is, it's not even a straw man. I heard all these arguments at some point, one way or another.
Same here. Same here. It's kind
It's
of
like,
like they keep. I didn't see it yet, but Vosh made like a video response to it, because like so many people on the left are angry about it. Like, what do you mean that the woke left and the racist rights agree on absolutely everything? This is a straw man, and you have no idea what you're talking about, and you're being an enlightened centrist. But it's kind of a lot like you. Okay, the woke left is unironically, I have seen this, asking that Japanese people stick to drawing black-haired, hazel-eyed Japanese characters, and that they need to stop drawing blonde hair, blue eyes characters. Like, I've actually seen, and this guy, he worked for Crunchyroll, no less. It was weird, but he was like saying that Japanese people need to stop like drawing like blonde hair, blue eyed characters, and stick with drawing black haired and hazel eyed characters. So it's like stick to your own race, and it's kind of a lot like and when we try to embrace Japanese culture, they love it because it's like you love our culture, but it's like no, 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 no. Americans need to stick with America. So you're asking for segregation. You basically are asking for segregation.
it's not just like just from like the video game and art standpoint, but also like a lot of college campuses. I noticed they have like their own separate kind of buildings for different races, and not just one building for like everybody. Like the black dormitories, for example, like they have like separate ones for black people. Or like I remember like there's this famous book that's being like the number one bestseller for the New York Times is called White Fragility, and I read that book. I did a video about it, talking about into detail what parts that I thought was like the absolute worst. But to break it down to you, it's like a lot of policy I noticed had been influenced by that book. There was this one graph I saw from the African American Museum, which, by the way, is like 30 minutes away from my house. And so, like, they had this whole entire chart just saying stuff like, well, individualism is like white culture, justice is like white culture, wanting to work hard is white culture. And the sad thing about all of it is that we're using our tax dollars to pay for that kind of, chart. It was like so bad, I believe, that the Smithsonian also removed the chart because of the backlash, and rightfully so, because it was actually telling people, hey, all these stuff is just white culture, but in reality, like most of the stuff listed, like individualism, justice for all, blah blah blah, I think those are generally good principles that should be applied for everybody.
Working hard is rights culture.
Yes.
That's like insulting to not just black people. It'll be insulting to, I mean, black people, Hispanic people, Asian people. It would be just an insult and a slap in the face to anybody who isn't white.
Hold on, I'm gonna show you like I'm gonna show you some of the worksheets that I saw, so I can give you an idea about what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna share it with my screen share. And so let's see, application window. Okay, the African American Museum removes whiteness chart after criticism from Donald Trump Jr. and conservative. Well, it's not just Donald Trump Jr. and conservative media; it's like everybody. So now, where's the chart? I saw the chart somewhere. It was like somewhere, like it was removed though. But anyway, go on what you were just saying because I'm gonna find it later. It'll be much later though. But it seems as though that by trying to promote anti-racism, like they actually are becoming more racist because in the name of anti-racism. It's like the strangest kind of self-contradictory position I could actually think of right now.
Yeah, they are being racist in the name of anti-racism because saying that working hard is my coach. It reminds me of how I've read somewhere. I think when I was watching This Week in Stupid by Sargon of Akkad, where somebody was saying like showing to work on time is white culture, and it's like white people need to understand that black people are good. It's like what the that, it's like you're acting like it's in a black person's genes to be late.
Yeah, it's almost like the same sort of arguments that the KKK would actually have. Except for this, it's not the KKK that's actually saying it now. It's actually the people who are imposed of the KKK.
Yeah, they call the horseshoe theory a joke. It's like how it's okay. Nobody is saying that the alt right and the far left are 100% identical, but it's kind of a lot like they seem like white supremacists with a guilty conscience. It's kind of a lot like they seem to like feel just guilty about being white. Rather.
Okay, that's the chart right here. I found the chart. It's like the aspects and assumptions of whiteness and white culture in the United States. It says like rig individualism, the individual is the primary unit, self-reliance, independence and autonomy highly valued, rewarded. Individual is soon to be in control of their environment. You get what you deserve. The family structure, the nuclear family, father, mother, two, three children is the ideal social unit. Husband is the breadwinner and head of the household. The wife is the homemaker and subordinate to the husband. Children should have their own room, be independent. The emphasis on the scientific method, objective, rational linear thinking, cause and effect relationships. Of course, history based upon Northern European immigrants' experience in the United States. Heavy focus on the British Empire, the primary of Western Greek, Roman, and Judeo Christian tradition. The Protestant work ethic, hard work is the key to success, work before play. If you don't meet your goals, you didn't work hard enough. Religion, Christianity is the norm. Anything other than Judeo Christian tradition is foreign. No tolerance for diversion from a single God concept. So, this is like the chart that I was talking about. Okay. Yeah, that's the chart that I was talking about, but like they had to remove it, so it kind of was a little hard to find it again. It was like so crazy. Like I saw that they posted that chart, and once again, I have to remind everybody, like the chart that I just read right now was paid by our tax dollars. Like all the, yeah,
Yeah, objective, rational, linear thinking is white culture. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, so are they saying that, Japanese people are and black people are incapable of objective, rational, linear thinking? Are they saying that I'm incapable of that? You're incapable of that? I mean, that's just an insult to everybody who isn't white. It reminds me of how I was watching a temple video, and Temple talked about how he like ran into a person that says that the concept of time, it's like a white thing, that white people came up with the concept of time over whatnot. And Tim's like, I have a Korean background, and anybody who does farming, any culture that has ever done farming would have a concept of time, because you had to wake up early in the morning, you have to do all of these things at a certain point of time to, grow your crops, and not and making sure that you keep everybody well fed. You had to prepare for winter. Different cultures have a concept of time.
yeah. Like to say that the concept of time is like a white. No, I'm sure like it's everybody that had like the concept of time, like you said. And so people have to work at a certain time, or like wake up at a certain time, or sleep at a certain time. So obviously, like everybody has a sense of time.
Yeah, but it's kinda like back to the woke guy versus the racist guy. It's amazing how many people are saying this is bullshit, this is a straw man, it's not real. And we are like totally complete opposites of each other. We have nothing in common. You're an enlightened centrist, and it's kind of like, oh, come now. We are like sworn enemies, but they like ignore like how much they sound just like the alt-rights. Or I mean, I was watching, even Stick Sextonhammer talking to, James Alsop, and James Alsop was even going so far as to advocate for socialist policies. So there is the alt-right actually advocating for socialist policies, and it's kind of like the only real difference is that they view like being whites is the heights of goodness and all things great. And the far left is like views being whites as an evil, oppressive, bad thing. But other than that, they seem to have like, you know, a lot of common, like, at most it's kind of like the alt-right feels like they are oppressive victims to the Jews. And the left would say that it's white people that have all the power.
Yeah, the thing about it though, like as far as the whole entire concept of about the similarities and the differences, like I remember there was this one game I recall like a long time ago. It was like social justice or Stormfront, and the game is like, well, you see, if it sounds like Stormfront or social justice, and then when you start to really compare them, it seems as though like there's not much of a difference in terms of arguments. Now, of course, the intentions, like I think most people will agree that the intentions are different, but as far as the argumentation about segregation of the races, or you cannot appropriate stuff because you're a certain race and blah blah blah, blah, I think they have more in common than they actually realize. And so that was the whole entire point of the video, to me at least, to show people, hey, maybe you should probably use different arguments. Maybe you don't want to sound exactly like the other extreme. Otherwise, your cause is not going to be, that great for people on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, it's like they just sound like white supremacists, but with a guilty conscience. Like, no, 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 no. It's like they just feel guilty about being white. It's kind of like, it's kind of like, sure, James also wants to fight for the end goal of a white ethno state. And, somebody in the far left will want to fight for the end goal of more diversity. But it's kind of like when you look at the actual arguments, there are people arguing against, and this is from the left. I had to make it clear to the left, that they are against Japanese people drawing blonde hair, blue-eyed women, people, because that's European. They are, against, Americans making, they go to Toshiba because that's Asian and cultural appropriation. It's kind of a lot like, it's kind of like they just seem to want segregation, and I've seen that too. Like I've seen like there was an issue, something happened a while back. I think that there was the concerts, and they want white people to pay double a fee. And there was this like mixed race girl got really angry because she was going to be like a singer or a dancer there. She was going to be a performer there, but she dropped out and called out because half of her family is white. And she was like, "You're going to make half my family pay double the fee." So,
That's funny because you mentioned the concert. There was also another incident that I saw that was like extremely like pro like Jim Crow stuff. There was this whole entire thing going on in Seattle with the chat stuff, and so there was this garden. I saw a picture of a garden where it says this garden is for like black people and minorities only. And it's not just that one
oh my
instance.
goodness, it's like that's how is that any different from what the alt rights is advocating for? The alt right, we want a whites, ethno state. The white people should stick to their own.
And that it's not just the garden too, but also like you heard about that day called Blackout Day.
No, I haven't heard of Black Out.
Okay, so like in Blackout Day, it was like in solidarity for Black Lives Matter. So what happened in the Chad place was that they had, of course, all the black people for Blackout Day, and they say that white people cannot join the Blackout Day.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
they still want segregation. It's just that, one of them is just, pro-whites and the other one is anti-white, It's still segregation, but it's like the alt-rights is going for a pro-whites, with pro-whites being, their objective, and the social justice advocates are more like anti-white.
Yeah, it's just it seems as though like when it comes down, there's like no freaking difference to me at all with their argumentation. And so maybe sometime when I have more time, I could probably film a video just pointing to articles or clips that I've seen where, like, the people who say that these are like strawman arguments, I could just point to them and make a video about like how they're not strawman arguments. So it
You
might
can
be a
You could probably like really grow your channel if you make a video response to Vosh, because Vosh was like, no, no, I haven't even seen the video yet, but I mean, I just imagined that he was gonna put something out of his ads because I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I think he made a fairly, like a somewhat fairly good video against Candace Owens. However, he invited Blair White into a debate. And when Blair White went to debate him, he just called her a liar nonstop. He must have called her a liar like 50 times. Not only did he call her like a liar 50 times, but he kept interrupting her, while she's mid-sentence and kept going on tangents. It's like, so Blair White would be in the middle of talking, he will interrupt, and he would just go off on some sort of tangent. And it's kind of like for me, like I am not interrupting you, while you're talking, at least if I have, it wasn't by much, and you're not interrupting me while I'm talking. But he just kept, she would be right in the middle of talking. He kept interrupting her, going into weird tangents. And Vosh, Vosh said that, gender is a spook. He kept saying gender is a spook, and he said gender doesn't exist, and he wants to abolish gender, and he says that she was always a woman, and that she didn't need a transition to be considered a woman. He just did some really off the wall stuff.
What the? So he wants to abolish gender.
Yeah,
What? Okay, that's impossible. That's like really impossible. Like now the whole entire issue about like, gender stuff, it's so simple to understand, but like people make a humongous mess making these sort of argumentation. My personal stance about the whole gender debate is like, of course, I think biology plays a huge factor to how people are. Of course, like if you have like the XY chromosomes, you're like a guy, and like the XX is like, they're female. And also, we know from like genitalia how people are. We also know that, of course, for brains, that there are different male brains compared to female brains. But even like trans people who transition to like a man or a woman, they of course have like only two genders. And so when people start making these sort of argumentations about like there are X amount of genders because there's like abnormalities for the chromosomes, like even if someone has like an XXY or an XXX chromosome, it still doesn't mean it's like a whole entire different gender. It means that they just have abnormalities. And so I hate it when people just try to use that as like evidence of extra genders when in reality it's not reality of extra genders. But as far as to abolish the whole entire concept of gender entirely, that sounds insane to me. That just sounds insane.
Yeah, like, I even watched Hunter Avalon's video where Hunter Avalon is like, "I am going to debunk myself," and he mostly just insulted himself, it's like it's kind of a lot like he made fun of his own hair despite having a similar hairstyle. It's like, dude, wait a minute. Your hairstyle is still similar to your old video. So it's kind of like, oh, how much product did I put into my hair? It's a concert. Your hairstyle now, still looks somewhat
It
similar,
looks still the same. It's
huh?
like I think the hairstyle looks the same to me because like when I watch his past videos and then when I see his recent videos, it's almost exactly the same.
Yeah, it's almost exactly the same, but he was like making fun of himself. Like, look at how much product I put into my hair. And he's just making himself. It's like, dude, you look the same. You look the same. So it's like, does that mean that you're putting so much product in your hair now?
Wow.
Or he was like, oh my goodness, listen to how pretentious I sound. It's like,
You still don't sound pretentious? What?
yeah, yeah, okay, I watched Victor Avalon's video. It's like, man, do you hear how pretentious I sound 10 years ago? It's like, dude, or what's it, 5 years ago, something like that. It's like, dude, you still sound pretentious now. So, you know,
I mean, I don't get me wrong. I find like him being pretentious actually pretty funny for his videos. So it's not something that's only from the past. Like it still happens now.
yeah, he keep acting like you changed. It's like, dude, you haven't really changed. I mean, right now, I mean, in the past, he just repeated right wing talking points. Now he's just repeating left wing talking points. I mean, it's kind of a lot like it's kind of like if you're mostly insulting yourself, it's like how is that supposed to change anybody's mind? Or okay, or towards the end of the video, he says, okay, it does address, what you just said. Does address what you said. He's like, oh my goodness, here in my old video, I talking about how men are determined by the y axis and or yeah, the Y chromosome, and women are determined by XX, and people are the in the genitalia, and it's like we do not. And then his response to that was, it's like you do not see people's genitalia when you go to stores and restaurants. What you see is people's clothing, and you determine gender.
Well, the thing about it is, like, like, you don't even need to see the genitalia to know who they are. Like, we know, like, women, they naturally have, like, long hair, or, sometimes they, of course, men have the Adam's apple, and so that's another indicator if there's a guy. Whereas, like, the women don't have the Adam's apple, and so when you look into, like, and of course, like, the women, like, of course, they have the boobs, and the men, they don't have the boobs, and so you could just tell immediately, like, who is a man, who is a female, without, the genitalia. So
Yeah, like
that's the thing.
hold on, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, I need to find my response to Hunter because I tweeted it out, and it wasn't me trying to throw shade against trans people, because I don't hate trans people, but I need to find my response because I did give a response to I think you remember Alcir, don't you?
I can't think about that person on top of my head right now.
Okay, Alcir is the he made YouTube videos, and he's from Australia. Do you remember him now?
I think I probably heard of him.
Oh, I think I found my response. And again, this isn't to throw shade against trans people, so if you're trans, this isn't meant to be mean or hurtful, but it's like it's just a response to Hunter Everlong going like people like use clothes to determine gender. It's like no, we do not look at clothes to determine gender. Hold on.
Yeah, the thing about clothes is that, like, it kind of changes with, like, fashion and what's the times going on. For example, like, pink used to be like a boy's color, but over time it became more associated with girls. And so I don't think clothes is like a determining factor of how you know someone's like a male or female. It's just no.
Okay, can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, so it's like so I downloaded the video because I wasn't going to give him any watch time, and basically Hunter has no idea that we are a sexually dimorphic species. You walk inside a store, you're not looking at say Y chromosome to determine male or female. You must be looking at the clothes. So on the left side, I have a woman who is bald headed and a man wearing a dress to demonstrate that we're not, looking at clothing, and to show how sexual dimorphism works. Now, do the
I think the woman with who was like the bald heads, like from, was it Black Panther, right?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
And you can see to the right a man wearing a dress, and you could do the picture show up clearly?
Yeah, I do. It's like, even though the guy wears a dress, he knows the dude because he has a beard. He has, of course, like the mustache, and so that's just like the main characteristic for like grown men is to have like a mustache, a beard, and whereas, of course, the woman on the left side, she doesn't have the beard, doesn't have a mustache. Of course, like a lot of stuff, is, of course, like the earrings. Like a lot of girls would have earrings on. And of course, the guy has like the Adam's apple. The woman doesn't have the Adam's apple.
Yeah, but
And
even
so,
if she did have a beard, because there are bearded women out there, you can still
yeah,
probably figure out it's a woman because we're a sexual dimorphic species. Like even if you shaved the beard off, like there is this Katy Perry video. If you watch the video by Katy Perry, and what's it called, Hot and Cold, where there is a man in a dress, and he doesn't have a beard. There's no beard. There's no mustache. But you can still tell it's a man in a dress, though.
yeah.
Or there's something
It's
old, like 1930s film where there's a man in a dress, but he has no beard, no mustache. He is perfectly clean shaven. He grew his hair long, but you can still tell it's a man in a dress, though.
yeah, you just know when you see it. That's like, I guess that's our main argument. You could just know who's a man, who's a woman, until you see it. But sometimes, I mean, of course, like the voice, like people how they vocalize their words. Now, sometimes, I guess, and I'm not, it's not, it doesn't happen all the time, of course, but like when some guy wants to date like a woman and they end up being like a trans woman, like sometimes it's really hard to tell unless someone actually tell you, hey, I'm a trans woman, and so I heard of like these sort of wacky stories of like man cannot tell the difference between like a trans woman and a biological woman, and so they get shocked when they come to the bedroom.
Or and this is just a response to Hunter Avalon. Um, just me responding to Hunter Avalon. Do you see these pictures?
Yeah, of the birds.
Yeah, yeah, this is just sexual dimorphisms. It's kind of like you can tell the difference between this bright blue bird, that has this bright colors, which is the male, and this, like gray looking bird, which is the female. You can tell the difference between this brightly colored duck, that is like all these bright little colors, which is the male duck. You can tell the difference between the gray duck, which is the female. You could tell the difference between the brightly colored peacock and the gray colored peahen. You could just, you can look at the bright colors and tell which is male and which is female. The one that is brightly colored is the male. The one that is, bland in color is the female. But that is how sexual dimorphism works. And humans are a sexual dimorphic species.
Exactly.
We always have been. And there's even a Wikipedia article on sexual dimorphism. Sexual dimorphism Wikipedia. Like here's the whole Wikipedia article on sexual dimorphism. Oh, you could talk. Mm, It'd be hard to. It would take me a while to find what I'm looking for anyway.
Oh, we're looking for.
Something that just explains the differences. It was something like really, really short, but it went into details explaining the difference. I think I found it. In humans, sex is determined by five factors presented at birth: the, the presence of or absence of the Y chromosome, the type of gonads, the sex hormones, the internal reproductive anatomy, um, the external genitalia. Generally, the five factors are either all male or all female. Sexual ambiguity is rare in humans, but wherein such ambiguity does occur, the individual is biologically classified as intersex. And then it would just go into, the difference in muscle mass. Like men have more muscle mass than women. It would talk about the breast and doctrine and whatnot. Physiological behavior effects. Um, and it's like human sexual differentiation is effected primarily at the gene level by the presence or absence of the Y chromosomes. So it repeats the earlier paragraph a bit. Um, Modern day Homo sapiens show a range of sexual dimorphism with the average body mass difference between the sexes being roughly equal to 15%. And it would
Hmm.
just go on, and it's kind of like it just goes on about all of the differences. Like females are taller on average than males in early adolescence, but males on average surpass them in heights in later adolescence and adulthood. In the United States, adult males are on average 9% taller and 16.5% heavier than adult females. There is no comparative evidence of differing levels of sexual selection having produced sexual size dimorphism between human populations. Like, look at how much it just goes on about the
And then
differences.
all those citations too, by those claims too, is really awesome.
Yeah, and it's all of these citations in Hunter Avalon. It's like when you go into a store or a restaurant, you determine who's male and who's female by who's wearing a dress and who's
Yeah, that's like the biggest stuff on.
Like I haven't watched the video myself, but like now that you mentioned like how wrong he was for this one claim, I'm curious how much more he could be possibly wrong.
I mean, it gets like even worse because I mean the ending of the video actually contradicted the middle of the video. You see, like he was pointing out, like how what he means is gender roles. Well, or like how men wear suits and ties now, and women wear dresses now. And he went all the way back to like men in robes and powdery wigs. And it's like, wait a minute, how do you know that they're men if they have long powdery wigs? Hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like I never seen any men with wigs compared to like what they did in the past. Like the only kind of people that I've seen that wear the wigs are just like females. Sometimes for like the extensions or whatever. And so it's kind of funny how the roles kind of reverse for the wig.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's like, but like back to Hunter Elmon's video, it was pretty much his self-owned because it's like in the middle of the video, he's saying like he's pointing out, how gender roles change over time. He's pointing out all of these men in long powdery wigs and robes, or men in a tunic. It's like pointing out how men look like now. But it's like, wait a minute, Hunter. How do you know that that's the man? Like, how do you know? It's like by what he says at the end of the video, you could tell who's the man and who's the woman based off what clothes they're wearing. And when you go to the restaurants, you go, if it's wearing a dress, it's a woman. If it's wearing pants, it's a man. It's like, dude, you do realize that plenty of women wear pants, right?
That is true. Like, I was on the store. Like, it's like every single day. Like, it's not just one instance where I saw a woman with pants on. It's like every single day is like I see women with pants on, dude.
And it's like, but by Hunter Avalon's line of logic, women do not wear pants. It's like it reminds me of the whole atheist. It's like women don't wear pants. It's like, dude, I'm a woman. I wear pants. Women wear blue jean pants every day. Telling me that you've never seen women wear pants before? It's
It's
like
not the. It's like I've seen it every single day. Every single day is like, yeah, I see women wearing pants. It's like it's nothing new at
it's like
all.
he also said it's like the mannerisms and the way that they talk, but it's kind of a lot like when I'm at Walmart, I do not walk up to talk to somebody to see if they're a man or a woman. I don't go like, like I usually know who's the man and who's the woman, right? Like when you go to Walmart, you don't need to wait until somebody speaks to figure out if it's a man or a woman or their mannerisms. It's kind of like when I'm at Walmart, people are just walking.
Yeah, I could just tell, hey, that's a man, that's a woman when I'm just walking. So, I don't think a voice is just an indicator how a person's a man or a woman. It's
Yeah,
just.
we are a sexual dimorphic species. Men tend to be taller on average. Sure, there are exceptions. There are going to be short men and tall women, but on average, men are taller, stronger, have more muscle mass, higher bone density. Like that Wikipedia article, that goes on the differences between men and women. It's like very, very thorough. It lists like each and every single teeny tiny differences.
Yeah, same as though, like, I guess for the case of Hunter, I don't know him personally, but I guess like what happened, the main reason why he was changing, from what I could tell, was because he had some sort of discussion or debate with Vosh or someone, and that's why he kind of reversed some of his positions.
Yeah, it's that, and because he is having a child, and it probably because he's gotten kicked off so much of social media for being a bigot that he probably doesn't want to negatively impact his child. That probably plays a role because if he keeps making the same content and he keeps getting called a bigot, that would probably negatively impact his child. It's like if you only had to look out for yourself, you could, just say whatever. But if you have a child to look out for, it is also probably why Lauren Southern is a centrist now. The reason why Lauren Southern is a centrist now is probably because she has a child, and like so many people are calling her an alt-right bigot. It's just probably doing it to protect her child.
The thing is, the funny thing about Lauren Saturn is that I actually spoken to her many times. It was like part of an interview that was done by Lauren Southern. It was like for the Rebel YouTube channel. Well, it was like a YouTube channel. It also had a web page, but the video was like behind some sort of paywall for like the Rebel website. And so during that time period, she actually interviewed me about Black Lives Matter and my personal stuff and feelings about Black Lives Matter. And so during behind the scenes, when I was being asked to do the interview, she seemed like a very kind, a very nice person. Like that was before she started to go to Europe and talk about a lot of different sort of white nationalist groups. And so I'm not sure if she's actually changing legitimately, but the time that I actually spent with her for the interview for her site that she used to work for, it was actually pleasant. And so I'm hoping that she is in fact changing for for good.
Yeah, it could just be to protect her offspring. Same thing with Hunter. It's probably because he got so much backlash for his video that that he just probably is calling himself out now to make sure that his child has an easier life.
True. And also it's going back to like Lauren Sutter, like I find it so strange, she used to seem not that extreme before. Like she was like the typical kind of anti SJW content creator. Talking about like the wage gap and debunking these sort of ideas that most people now know are bad. And then all of a sudden, this turnaround about like the white nationalist stuff, like wow, like like when I saw some of the stuff like when she was on the boats and just trying to stop I guess migrants or whatever, that was like wow. And so again, I hope that she actually changed for the better. I hope she tried to tone down the rhetoric, because it seems then as soon as they started to announce that she wants to change her position, of course Paul Joseph Watson went after her on social media. And he was like super mad, like super. Like I saw like these images where he's trying to text like Lauren Sutter and just try to curse her out and stuff. It's like so pathetic.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I was like laughing. Many people, I mean, people from all sides of the political spectrum were laughing at him. Like Ethan Ralph, all the way to like Vadim Newquist and Claudia Brown. People from like all over the political spectrum were laughing at him.
Yeah, because he made himself look like a freaking fool when he did all that. Like, instead of trying, be accepting, and try to say, do what you want to do, just, as long as it's okay. Instead of doing that, he just freaked out. Just spazzing out at her. It's like so childish.
Yeah, it was like really, really childish. It's like but personally, I think she's just saying that because she has a kid now. Same thing like with Hunter Avalon. I just think that he's saying it so his kid would have an easier life. I don't think he's all that genuine because it's kind of like he's making fun of his hair while wearing a similar hairstyle. He's making fun of himself for being pretentious while still being pretentious now. He's saying that people look at clothes to determine whether you're a man or a woman. With people, we are a sexual dimorphic species. We're kind of looking at everything together. We're just kind of looking at everything together.
Exactly. Now, as far as like some other stuff that's been on my mind as of lately, besides China, besides of course like Hunter and these other kind of topics, I noticed that of course like a lot of people like from Spain, from Latin America, have been inviting me to their channels as of lately too. It's been super crazy, like the amount of invitations I've gotten so far. It's just wow. Like just last week, I was like on an interview for like a guy from Argentina, and it was like absolutely fun. And so it seems still like oh, I'm starting to get like a lot of popularity in those kind of places now.
Yeah. Oh, let me share this other thing with you. I just thought it was funny. Just going to share something I think funny.
Oh, what's funny?
Okay, this is from Babylon Bee, and it's like DC rebrands Wonder Woman as Wonder Person Who Menstruates.
Oh man. Uh, it's funny. I just saw Wonder Woman last month. It was actually a good movie. It's probably the best DC movie I've seen, actually.
Yeah, I just thought like the whole Wonder Person Who Menstruates is like really funny because people want to change women to, be person who menstruates. It's like people really do. Because like there's the J.K. Rowling incidents where it's like no, woman is too offensive. You can't say woman anymore. You must say person who menstruates.
The thing about like J.K. Rowling is that she's not, entirely new to controversy. I remember like during the PewDiePie whole entire ad apocalypse thing that she was actually going after PewDiePie and try to cancel him out. And then here she is like years later, and now she's the victim of this sort of cancel culture stuff. And I noticed that there are some people on Twitter who are flat out denying the existence of cancel culture, which is kind of stupid because like we have plenty of examples of people who actually are being canceled for having the wrong kind of ideas or points of views.
Yeah, but this is why I don't really feel all of that mercy for J.K. Rowling. The reason why I don't feel mercy for her is like you just said, and I didn't even know about it, but you said that she tried to cancel PewDiePie, but even before then, it's kind of like she just seems so fake and like she just tries to pander to people, like how all of the fights that she paid with Donald Trump and whatnot, like her fans would be a lot like Donald Trump is a Slytherin and J.K. Rowling would be like, no, Donald Trump is too dumb and stupid to be a Slytherin. And it's like, well, her fans would say Donald Trump is like a Hufflepuff, because he's so fat, so he must be a Hufflepuff. And it's like,
Aha!
And J.K. Rowling would be like, no, 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 Hufflepuffs are nice, kind, sweet students with beautiful hearts. And there would be a lot like, no, it's like, well, surely you're not saying he's a Gryffindor. Like, no, 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 because to be Gryffindor, blah, 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 blah. It's like Donald Trump is a muggle and whatnot. And she would pander to the woke crowd. And then, it's like, and she's, it's kind of like, hey, you pandered to these people. So, if you pander to the far left, why should I feel mercy for you? Because, like when I was a kid, every kid loved, Harry Potter. Like every single kid from, it's just a kid thing. If you were a kid, you just loved Harry Potter.
It's kind of funny that you're talking about Harry Potter right now because I have the books right beside me right now by my computer. It's like on my bookshelf actually. So I also grew up on Harry Potter, reading the books and watching the movies. And so I don't try to make like the political statements that are done by J.K. Rowling to, be ruining my experiences with the books or the movies because I try to separate the art from the people. But I won't lie, like some of the comments that she has made over the last few years that have followed her on Twitter has been just absolutely just stupid. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, she is blending her own works with politics. Like that's the issue. She blends her own work with politics, like discussing whether or not Donald Trump would be a Hufflepuff, a Slytherin, or a Gryffindor.
Yeah, like I mean, I like
Why
Harry.
should
Oh,
we blending her?
yeah, like it's like I like Harry Potter, but I don't try to associate with that kind of fandom for the Harry Potter because like because of this whole entire political climate now, like you said before, like everybody want to compare everything to Harry Potter, and so I'm like, no, sorry, I'm not going to associate with the Harry Potter fandom because the Harry Potter fandom is like kind of toxic right now.
Yeah, and then she whines in her essay. In her essay, she was whining and complaining. The complaint was that people called her a Voldemort. She says like her fans were like, imagine turning it to Voldemort, and she's like, wow, you did it. That's the only language that I understand. When she herself compared everything to Harry Potter.
You know, I wish people could make more vigorous, criticism about the political climate without resorting to Harry Potter. That would be fantastic, guys. So, anyone listening who are a fan of Harry Potter, try not to compare everything to Harry Potter.
Yeah, to me, it's her reaping what she sows. She was the one that started comparing everything to Harry Potter. She had that little back and forth with her fans. Then when her fans called her Lord Voldemort, it's like, wow, why do you think that's the only type of language that I understand? Because you're the one who compares everything to Harry Potter. It's like separate your politics from your work, and that wouldn't happen to you.
Exactly. Now, it's kind of sad, but I'm not surprised. It's just also the same thing with like the controversy with like Cherry Chews because he tried to go against like the rhetoric from like the extreme examples for Black Lives Matter, and then we have people just going after him and just complaining about his comments that try to be unifying. Like Terry Chews is like one of the nicest celebrities I've seen so far, and so the complaints that people had against his comments, but not against like Nick Cannon, is quite hypocritical because Nick Cannon did like this whole entire podcast just comparing like what was it? Oh crap! Like that apparently people who have less melanin to be like animals and that Jews run everything. It's like how could you guys not complain about Nick Cannon, but then complain about Terry Chews?
You mean Ted Cruz?
Terry Crews. No, like the black bull guy, the
Yeah,
actor.
that is Ted Cruz.
Okay, Terry Crews. Sorry.
Yeah, I like Terry Crews. I think he's a cool dude. And it's like it's also, the problem with the whole, like let's uplift black voices. Remember how things were like in 2015, where it's like if you are black, like your voice should be uplifted. It's like, well, what's it? Racism equals prejudice plus power and whatnot. It's like, well, it's like if you are just gonna say put black people into positions of power, and that's it, then of course you're gonna have black anti-Semites in power.
Yeah, it's like it's so strange this whole entire like on one hand we're against like racism, but it's okay to hate on white people. We want to fight against segregation, but as segregation against certain minorities, everything right now is just so topsy turvy. It's just sometimes you don't even. It's hard to even make parodies about this anymore. Like day by day, like parody sites like what was it? I forgot the name. It was oh crap, The Onion. Like stuff like The Onion seem more and more like reality compared to the past. Like in the past, I thought ha ha ha, like The Onion is like super funny. Is I can't believe that would actually ever happen. And here we are in 2020, like everything like that the Onion's talking about is actually happening.
Yeah, it's almost like Babylon Bee and the Onion. It's almost like there's clairvoyance there because it's like there would be situations where it would be like on Babylon Bee, and then like 3 to 5 days later it actually happens, or like the following day it actually happens. Like like there would be like feminine. Okay, there would be a Babylon Bee article where feminists are cheering for a female dictator for North Korea, like Kim Jong Un. It's like, but then I would watch a Shieldhead video where people are actually unironically cheering for, the female dictator, saying that it's progress. Or it's kind of a lot like there would be a Babylon Bee article about, Susan Wojcicki, where like Susan, is playing the Chinese. It's like making it mandatory to play the Chinese anthem for like each and every YouTube video. And then like something somewhat similar, like not to the extreme, but it seems like YouTube was like censoring videos that was critical of the Chinese government. So it's kind of like the Babylon B would make an article about it, and a few days later it'll actually happen.
Yeah, it's like it's almost as if these kind of people who do these kind of parodies have some sort of special foresight. I remember there was like an article talking about like the maple syrup with that black woman. I forgot the name of the brand, but like it was like talking about the maple syrup, but then like the day later, like the maple syrup was, I think, banned. So it's almost too coincidental how they had some sort of foresight about the syrup, and it got banned immediately the day after. So,
Well, wait a minute. Do they take anonymous posts? Like, do
I
they
don't know.
take anonymous? Like, could you submit to them anonymously, and if it's good, they will get accepted through? Because what could have happened is that people on the inside could have been a lot like, let me write this, satirical article of what's actually happening, and then it actually happens.
I think with the maple syrup, it was a day before it was announced, and so it was like almost too coincidental the timing. And I'm not sure about the process about writing articles for the Onion or whatever, but I need to do like some more research to probably answer that.
Yeah, like it was really, really weird how there's an Onion article about Susan Wojcicki being pro-Chinese, and like it's gonna be mandatory to sing the Chinese, communist anthem at the beginning of every single, YouTube video, and then it's kind of like to like later on, like 3 days later, to learn that like Susan Wojcicki has been censoring videos that is critical of China, So it's kind of quite weird, and it makes me think that there was somebody in the inside, like somebody in the know who knew about it, perhaps submitted a sort of satirical article, and then that's what leads to this.
Yeah, it's entirely possible, I guess. Anything is possible right now. Like, we're living in a world where like satire is reality, and reality reflects satire. So anything is possible. I think.
Yeah, anything is possible. Like a lot of the things that would have been, science fiction in the past, it's like actually happening now. Like we do live in a world where there are robots now, and there are robots that look like humans and could talk to you, and some of them could actually cook. And I think that there is a country that has a robotic police force.
Is it like Japan or like South Korea?
I think it's an Arabic country actually. Like I think it's an Arabic country that has a robotic police force, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so I'm not surprised about this because like everything seems to be very technology driven. Like when I go to McDonald's, sometimes like they don't even have like people taking like the orders at the cash register because they have like the touch screen self service and you just press like the kiosk to make your order and then you get your order. And so when it comes down to like people using robots to make food and stuff, I could possibly see that. I can also see like the whole entire controversy about taking children back to like school during the coronavirus pandemic. I think the idea of teaching kids on the internet was going to be eventual even before the virus because obviously like some kids like they are like the target of bullying or sometimes they're shy, and so I guess for some kids it would actually be better for them to learn online through like a teacher and stuff. And so I thought like stuff like learning from the computer was actually going to be happening someday in the future too. And also I heard, of course, like we see these movies about like these flying cars. Like the most famous example is like Back to the Future Part Two, where it claimed in 2020 that we would have flying cars. Well, it turns out we don't have flying cars. So, and they also had like these sort of shoes, where if you put on like the shoes, the it would not have any sort of laces. It would just lace itself. And so it's kind of like a matter of time until we actually are living, in fact, like the movies that we see. But some, I don't think like all of us will be alive during that time where we actually are living exactly like the movies.
Well, nowadays they're just shoes that don't need laces. You haven't seen that already? Shoes that don't need laces, you just slip your foot.
Yeah, I have shoes that don't have laces. But like in the movie, it was like when you put on the shoe, it would just lace itself, like a
Yeah,
self lacing.
I don't think that that is going to happen given that if you have shoes that don't need laces, then it takes away the need for self-lacing shoes. But as far as the car thing, there is actually a car that does exist, a car that is real, that could be on either dry land or the ocean. Like there's this
Hmm.
car that could actually drive on top of the ocean.
Oh, that is cool. And so we don't even need like the freaking like submarines or stuff to go in. It's like we could just use the car. Because I remember there was like there was this James Bond movie where like James Bond he had like the Bond girl they went into like the ocean, and he used like a car to just travel without the submarine. So who knows? It might be true someday too.
Well, this car doesn't drive underwater. It just drives
Underwater
on
is
top
like
of
on the
water.
top of it. Okay.
Yeah, it just drives on top of water, but it's
Okay.
still cool. Like it's still like futuristic. It's still like one of those futuristic movies. Like in the future, this would happen, and in the future, this would happen. Well, it's kind of like we, years back too. Like I believe in 2016 or 2017, Business Insider was talking about a car that could be either on the road or you could drive it off the road and drive it like into the ocean, and it would just float, or it would be like a boat, it would just go, on top of the ocean.
Right, and also it's kind of funny that we're talking about like technology right now because one of my favorite movies actually happens to be Blade Runner. And like Blade Runner, it took place in I think yeah 2019, and like everything has some sort of like super techy Asian feel to it or like a Japanese feel to it, where they have like something as simple as like Coca-Cola being advertised by Japanese people, or like there will be like a lot of Japanese kanji all over the place, and everything is just going to be dark and gloomy and rainy. And then so it's kind of interesting because like right now, like I think during the time that Blade Runner was being filmed, it was actually Japan that actually had like a lot of influence during that time period. But now we fast forward, and of course, it seems as though that China has like a lot of influence now. Like practically everything now is being made by China. Something as simple as like shoes laces or like socks or compute, like anything is like being made by China. So I think instead of like the Japanese stuff that they projected in the past that might have the most influence for our future would be like, of course, China.
Well, right now, China is facing backlash for how they're treating the Uyghur Muslims. So I don't know how that's going to play out. Because even now, not that long ago, Shona Oliver with last week's night with HBO, they just finally called out China. It took them long enough. It took them long enough. But now it's the Shona Oliver who's with HBO. Is Bill Maher who did it like a month or so ago with HBO. So HBO, they are calling out the Chinese.
Yeah, I think also there was one thing that we have not mentioned about the violations, besides like the Muslims and everything else, has to be like the sweatshops and how the conditions are just absolutely awful. Like the minimum wage for those kind of sweatshops are not even enough to afford a place. And I heard that a lot of these people just live in those sweatshops and then continue to work off of pennies and stuff. It's almost like practically slavery for those kind of places. But they make all of our goods that we know under those kind of harsh conditions. And so it's like really sad that it actually exists, those kind of sweatshops. So like a lot of stuff is wrong with China right now.
But it's also goes back to the loud. Like
Like,
remember the situation with Colin Kaepernick, and Colin Kaepernick like was like kneeling during the pledge. Remember that?
yeah, I do.
Okay, okay. Then Colin Kaepernick got signed on with Nike, and Nike is like, we are pro Black Lives Matter, and people like Sam Poole were calling out the regressive left, and Sam Poole was like, we're in the left against Chinese. Okay, like we're in the left against Nike because Nike had children in sweatshops in China, but so many people on the left were calling out Sam Poole, like Black Lives Matter, it's important, so we're gonna buy Nike products. Black Matter is important. Police brutality is important, so we're gonna support Nike. And like all of these people on the left were calling out Sam Poole and showing their support of Nike because they're calling Kaepernick. Now to learn that, Nike, Nike is, using weaker Muslims as slave labor for their shoes.
Yeah, the thing about like the whole issue of like these companies backing Black Lives Matter, like a lot of them are hypocrites on these issues because a lot of these companies depend heavily on those kind of slave labor stuff. And so when you think that, like, when you start to say, like, hey, we think Black Lives, like, if you really think that lives matter in general, first of all, don't work in China. Don't work in those sweatshops. And so if you actually do work in those kind of sweatshops, but you still say, hey, we actually support, like, these stuff a lot, like, you guys are hypocrites. You guys are hypocrites.
Yeah,
This
but
is.
I think it was cool of Simple to point out the hypocrisy coming from the left because Simple's like, hey, hey, leftists, you guys called out Nike because of their history of child labor. Like, hello, leftists, do you remember like when you called out Nike for child labor? But you would see all of these progressives, like Claudia Brown, I believe is one, or her name used to be Rancing Feminist. She's going by Claudia Brown now. She's like, no, 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 we're going to support Nike because the Black Lives Matter. And
Wait,
then
aren't you friends with her?
uh, she doesn't talk to me anymore. Like we were friends, but she just abruptly had nothing to do with me anymore.
Uh,
And it's kind of like, it's really, really weird because it's kind of like I did consider her a friend, but I guess it was one way.
hmm.
Because it's kind of a lot like if we were talking, I wouldn't abruptly have nothing to do with you anymore. I would at least explain it or whatnot because I would at least explain why I have an issue with you.
Okay. Yeah, like as far as
Because
me,
like we did exchange emails too. Like we did exchange emails, so it's like I thought that it would be nice if she wanted, nothing to do anymore to just have like that bit of closure there, but instead it was just abrupt, not talking to me anymore.
oh, that's kind of sad. But getting back to like the point about Nike and these companies, it's also the same with like Naughty Dog. Like they say, well, you say we want to have like people to be treated right, but like Naughty Dog is also infamous for having like these crunch times where they treat people like garbage. And so when they start saying, "Well, we care about black," like no, 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 you guys are also hypocrites too. Like almost all these companies that went behind Black Lives Matter to me end up being like hypocrites one way or the other. So it was kind of fun to see like how they just try to band together because it's the popular thing to do.
Or look at Bernie Sanders, how he would be really, really loud and call himself a socialist, but then, he wouldn't allow his workers to unionize. Not only did he ban unionization for his own workers, but he only paid his workers only like $15 per hour, even though he's like a millionaire with like three different homes.
Yeah, like hypocrisy is everywhere. It's kind of why I don't trust any one politician. It's kind of why I don't want to vote for neither Trump or Biden because both are just crazy in their own kind of ways.
Yeah,
There's,
I'm not voting either. Like, I don't like Trump. I don't like Biden. Like, Biden, there's the whole Tara Reid situation. And I mean, not only that, but he seems to have dementia. It's kind of like he says that Donald Trump is the very first racist president.
that was like the funniest comment I ever heard from that guy.
And I think, did he talk about little kids loving to rub up on his leg or something?
What? Yeah, I remember that one too.
So it's kind of, but not only that, but somebody actually showed a photograph of Joe Biden kissing his granddaughter full on the lips.
Yeah. Ew, just no.
So it's kind of like I don't like Biden enough to go out and vote for him. I don't like Trump either, and I do call out Donald Trump sometimes. And it looks like the crazed Trump supporters stopped following me. Like I would call out Donald Trump, and then like there would be like all of these people who would want to respond to me calling out Donald Trump, and they unfollowed me because they realized that I really do, hate the president. However, I just hate Biden too. And then people just cherry pick their outrage. Like people who would see me calling out, um, AOC, and they're like, yes, yes, at a girl, like you're doing right, you're doing good. You kind of got ALC, but then as soon as they call somebody that they like, it's like, oh, you're an HGW now, you're an HGW now. Like, can it be just possible that I hate both sides of the spectrum?
Yeah, it's kind of funny too. Just it was like a few days ago I saw the news about like Donald Trump's comment about like if we have like million votes, it would actually have voting fraud. Like that's not like anything could possibly have like voting fraud. Like because I'm not sure about like your states, but it's pretty common here to just go to like those electronic machines to cast your votes. And sometimes there's like these reports about a lot of people trying to use fraud against those machines, and so it's not necessarily like mailing the vote would actually lead to fraud. Like anything can lead to fraud, and so that was like another comment that I saw was stemmed from Donald Trump.
Yeah, anything could cause voting fraud. It's like I just can't bring myself to like Trump. And, it's like, or him calling himself the King of Israel and whatnot, or calling himself the second coming of God or whatnot. I just think that he's a narcissist. Yeah.
Yeah, like I know like people keep trying to say like he's Emperor God, and so it's just like a lot of this stuff is kind of funny to me, but I try not to take it too seriously. It's like, but it's like, wow, no way people could be like that stupid.
Yeah, but it's more like Donald Trump supporters are a real trip and whatnot. But it's kind of a lot like AOC supporters don't get that they are equally as trippy because AOC spoke out against farts and cows. And they'll try to make sense out of nonsense.
Oh my god, it's funny because with the whole entire climate change active, like obviously, I believe in climate change. Most people listening to this believe in climate change. But like the activists that I've seen like earlier this year and last year, especially like the more like vocal extreme voices, have some serious issues. I just remember seeing some sort of clip where they call like climate change activism climate justice. And they try to say, well, you see, like climate change is important because you see it affects minorities the most, and therefore it must be racist because it affects the minorities
Yeah,
or
I
some
remember
sort.
that there's like an article that says climate change is racist. I mean, let me see. I think it will pop right up. I think it will pop right up if you just Google it, like climate change is racist. Uh, Oh, wait a minute. Okay, there is an article by the Washington Post, and I think there's also an article by the Guardian saying that climate change is a racist, crisis or racial justice problems. So you got the Washington Post and the Guardian both talking about it. It's like, so climate change is racist.
It's like the stupidest idea yet for that. It's like you kind of remove your kind of legitimacy against like real world issue about like climate change by focusing on that kind of dumb issues.
I think they were talking about location, and I think that they were going for the clickbaity title. But even if you're talking about location, that clickbaity title makes you look like it makes you look wacky. It makes you like you lost a few marbles.
Oh yeah, more than a few mobiles actually. It's almost like you just had to be super drunk to just freaking write that.
Yeah, because like Tim Pool, uses clickbaity titles too. But when he uses clickbait, people normally pick clickbaits that makes you want to read the articles, but they pick clickbait that makes them look like conspiracy theorist nutters.
Right. Now, personally, like as far as my stance about clickbait, I don't try to use it as much. I just try to title my videos about what the subject I'm gonna talk about, and that's it. And so, I personally don't try to apply like a lot of clickbait titles. Though I won't lie though, like the clickbait titles that I see for some videos are pretty funny.
Yeah, like clickbait could, draw extra people to your channel, but it's kind of like the difference between a little bit of salt and a lot of salt. If you have a little bit of salt, it's great. But if you have a lot of salt, you ruin the flavor. If you have clickbaited titles here and there, that's fine. But it's kind of a lot like pretty much each and every single last sample video is the left has gone crazy. And it's kind of a lot like, well, all of your videos is pretty much entitled "The Left Has Gone Crazy" or "The Democrats Have Gone Crazy" or "Insane." It stops being original.
True, it's like there's so little like so many ways you could probably say the same kind of sentence over and over again. So
It would be like the left has gone crazy. The Democrats are insane. The Democrats have lost it. So in the end, it's like all of the video titles end up being synonyms.
exactly, exactly. So at some point, like I guess maybe he probably still up in the future, but right now he's definitely not stopping with those kind of clickbait titles. But honestly, I don't care either way because like it's been like a long time, actually, a good minute since I've seen his content.
Yeah, it's been a while since I watched his contents because of the hyperbolic titles, and it's like Steven Crowder. It's like even leftist Tim Pool is thinking about voting for Donald Trump, but given that all of his video titles are "the left has gone crazy," nobody's shocked that he's considering voting for Donald Trump. I think it was kind of obvious.
Yeah, it's kind of obvious at this point. But I kind of thought he wanted to vote for like Bernie Sanders in the past, at least according to like some of the videos he did.
Yeah, he did say that in the past he wanted to, vote for Bernie Sanders. But if all of his videos is the left going crazy, then it's not a shock that he has thought about voting Donald Trump. It's like, so with Stephen Crowder's like, oh my God, even Tim Pool is gonna vote for Donald Trump or is thinking about voting Donald Trump. Nobody's shocked. Everybody's like, isn't it obvious? Look at the titles of his videos. I mean, we can look at the title of his videos, and many people called it.
Me personally, I don't try to focus on one side or the other. Like if I find something that's crazy or absurd, I try to call as many people out, no matter their political background. And so I don't try to just focus on like one group that's crazy or the other. It's like I try to make videos on like the both sides that I find to be crazy, at least for those kind of people.
Yeah, like there were people on the right wing who took issue with what's it, good omens because a female there was a woman who was playing the voice of God, and the right wing wanted to censor it.
Hmm. You
Oh, you
know,
called that out in the past, remember? I asked you to say call it out.
yeah, I think I remember that, but it's like I make so many videos that sometimes I don't even keep track about the stuff I make. So sometimes like it probably be something I did call in the past, but then I tend to forget later on because like I keep doing like projects that are different.
Yeah,
But but I do remember what you were saying though.
yeah, I believe that both the right and the left should be called out, not just the left, but the right too, because they could be kooky as well. Like, oh yeah, like Ben Shapiro comparing, the LGBT diversity flag to the pro-slave, and that was also his words too, the pro-slavery Confederate flag. So it
What was this?
was today. It was today. It was like a few hours.
Today?
Yeah, so
Wow.
wait a minute.
We had to see this. I need to see this.
Okay, let me go into my search engine. Let me, like I'm not even putting words to this because I know that some people would say that the Confederate flag is about heritage, but he did specify pro-slavery, so he's comparing slavery to the LGBT diversity flag.
What the fuck?
Okay, do you see it?
Yeah, I do.
Left cheered removal of the flag with almost no believers in its pro-slavery meaning and replaced it with a flag of oppression. So he is being oppressed by the LGBT. But it's like you're comparing the LGBT community to the people who wanted chattel slavery. If you're talking about if you're talking about the Confederate flag with its association with slavery, then you're talking about chattel slavery. You're talking about people working from sun up to sundown, picking cotton, being whipped, and and bad things happening like that. And you're comparing the LGBT, who want equality to that.
It's like the most absurd comparison I've seen today. That is stupid. Wow.
Oh,
Mind
no, no,
blown.
no, no, it's actually old. It's actually from July 10th, but I only saw it today. I only saw it today. Somebody quote tweeted it. I forgot who. I think it was Oreo. I think Oreo quote tweeted it. So it looks like it's actually really old. It looks like, wait a minute, the date is July the 10th, 2015. Oh, so it's actually old, but I know what happened. Oreo quote tweeted it. That's why I thought it was today, But I was when I saw it, I was shocked because he seems smarter than that.
Well, I mean, it's not the first time I've seen him going against like gay people. Because I remember like some sort of interview, it was like with some sort of trans woman. And then I think the trans woman was trying to threaten to punch him or something. It was crazy. And he also said directly towards Dave Rubin that even though he's like his friend, he would not support him in his wedding or go to the ceremony, like the party or whatever, because of religious reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really, really, it was like really off the wall. It was just like when I saw it, I was surprised because it was just like you cannot really compare wanting slavery to wanting equality.
Like no reasonable person will ever do that sort of comparison.
Yeah, it would be different. It would be different if you would say, okay, if you interpret it as, Southern heritage or whatnots, or what are the right wing arguments for the Confederate flag? I
It's
forgot.
like it's apparently it's like Southern heritage, and that's why they like the flag, or
Yeah,
something. I'm
or
not sure.
I heard another argument for the flag, something about economy, something about states' rights. Like they support the Confederate flag because it's about states' rights for them. But it would be different if you went with that interpretation. But he was like he did say pro slavery. And then it's like, and then it's like compared it to the LGBT tag, which is its origins is about equality. And like, sure, there are some loud LGBT people who say dice to scum, but the dice to scum people are the minority. They, in no way, shape, or form, represent the majority.
Right, like people that like you mentioned before, like the dice, the scum stuff. I think that those kind of people are just freaking cancer. Really, like I hate those kind of activists who do this kind of stuff. But like you said, they're the minority of people, and so to me, what's most important is not a person's sexual orientation or how they gender identify or whatever. To me, like my personal philosophy is to just judge people based upon how they are. And so to me, it doesn't really matter if you're like gay or transgender or bisexual. Like, if you're a cool person, I'll hang out with you no matter what. It's funny because like I remember it was like what was it 2012? Yeah, 2012. I actually voted for gay marriage in the state of Maryland before it was became like nationwide in 2015. And so I always supported like the people to be whoever they are. And so I don't think that a even though there like might be like some extremists out there, I don't think like just because there are some extremists out there for the gay community doesn't mean you cannot support gay rights at all.
And I would agree with it. Like, just because there are some, I mean, there's going to be extremists in all groups. There's going to be extremists who are whites, extremists who are black, extremists, so the extremists in the LGBT community does not in any way, shape, or form reflect all of the LGBT community, but they are just the loudest voices.
Right, right. And it's funny too because I can also name some people I think yeah they are kind of like fit into that umbrella. Like for example, I think you say you were like bisexual. Yeah, yes, like you are bisexual. Then there's also like my friend. Her name is like Faye. She's also bisexual. So and there's also my friend. It's like he's on Twitter too. His name is Joe, and he's also part of that whole entire like umbrella. So I think ultimately I care more about person. It's like personality is like the most important thing compared to like what people want to do in bed. That's my personal philosophy.
You could off a bit, but the beginning was cut off. I did hear like you are bisexual and Shell's bisexual and Thea is bisexual, but you cut off before then. Like there were like parts of it that were just missing for me, like person.
Okay, yeah, it's like I was just saying that it doesn't really matter how people are. That's the personalities that counts the most for me.
Yeah, I am bisexual. You got it right.
Wow, like so when you came out to your parents, how did they take it?
I did it. They always knew, and besides, my dad is never around anyway. Like the last time I seen my dad. I think I was 18 years old.
Wow.
And he was missing for a huge part of my life anyway. Like I've seen my dad like he was very much around in my childhood. Like he was like very, very much around. Like when I was in the like first grade and I think he was around when I was in the second grade. And then he like disappeared. And then I didn't see him again until like I was 16. And then he disappeared again. And then I didn't see him until like I was 18 and then we just broke out concepts altogether.
Oh man, I just hate it like how kids grow up without their father figure or like their mom or whatever. Because that's like seems to be like a big problem with like a lot of what's happening in the black community too. Is like a lot of people just grow up without their father, and so a lot of people just grow up with their mom. For a large chunk of my life too, is like I just grew up with my mom, and I have very little time spent with my dad when I was just growing up. Of course, I talk to him now or then, but it's not as quite as often as my time speaking to my mom. And so I wish, like, when people start to, become parents to become dedicated to their kids, that they would actually stick together and actually find ways to make a relationship work. Because I don't think it's healthy to just be around with just one parent. I think it takes two to, be good parents.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, he was the one that asked for a divorce. It wasn't my mom who asked for a divorce. It was my dad who asked for a divorce. And, he just chose not to be around. Because, like, when I was a child, he was like, when I was in the first grade, he was like there each and every single day. But then it's kind of like he just disappeared.
Hmm, that is really sad. Like, I remember when I was a kid, like, when I was growing up, I used to cry that I did not see my dad. And I remember just going to, like, therapy because I was, generally sad that I couldn't see my dad as often. And so, as an adult, like, I can handle it now, not seeing my dad as often. But it's still kind of sad feeling that I did not grow up with my other parent besides my mom.
Well, for me, what made things easier for me was learning that my dad was crazy, and I didn't learn it from my mom. Like before you think, oh, your mom, no, 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 it's not my mom. that led me to think my dad was crazy is he himself, because he has done some crazy things, while I was around him. Like, the traffic lights were red, and it was red for a long time. Like, it wasn't like just turned red. It was red, and like the other cars started going. Like the other cars were, he did stop. The other cars just started going, and then he just started to drive into traffic as if he wanted to do a suicide homicide.
Wow, that is crazy. Like, now, as a general rule for like just driving in general, like of course, green is go, yellow is caution, and red is stop. Like, I could kind of understand if they go like under the light for like yellow, maybe. But if it's like straight up red for a long period of time, it doesn't make any sense to just go through the light. It's
Yeah,
just too
because not
dangerous.
only was it red, but the other cars already were moving for a while. Like the other cars that they were moving, he still decided to, drive into the traffic as if he was trying to do a suicide homicide. And that wasn't the only time he did something like that. Another time, like there was a 16-wheeler, and the 16-wheeler was on the other side of the road, and he drove across the double yellow lines in front of the 16-wheeler. And the 16-wheeler will just keep honking and honking and honking his horn, because it's like, okay, like you're gonna get everybody killed.
Yeah, that is stupid. That is just dangerously stupid.
And
Like
it's like literally seems like,
sometimes I'm kind of curious, like how do people get their license? Honestly, when they drive that crazy, like wow, that is just. It's like it's kind of like those kind of people that I would hate to drive beside by, because like one of my greatest fears about like driving a car is those kind of people who drive crazy. And so if someone like that try to pull some sort of maneuver that try to cut me out and just go super fast, I just would be nervous as all hell.
yeah, when you're driving for two people.
Yeah. And so when you have like a course, like it's like one thing if you want to drive crazy by yourself, but when you have your entire family, wow, crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, and when he went crazy, it's like that was when it's kind of like I didn't miss him anymore. It helped deal with the daddy issues. When somebody does something that crazy, you're just kind of glad to have them out of your life.
Oh yeah, it's like absolutely ridiculous. But I think one thing that I do like to see, hopefully, like in the future, would be like oh my god, I lost my stop right now. But I just hope, like, if we have some sort of message to conclude everything, that I hope that everything will be, become better. I hope that we don't have to wear masks anymore. I hope we can find a vaccine, because I feel as though like everything seems like shit right now, but I'm sure there's gonna be some sort of light behind the tunnel.
What was the last part?
I hope that there's some light in the tunnel.
Oh, I believe that there would be. You want to know why? Because, okay, the only thing constant is change. Like the only thing that is constant is change. And it's like the left, whether they want to acknowledge it or not, they're pretty much the status quo, at least as far as social media is concerned.
Oh yeah, like the really really crazy part is like definitely for the campuses and for like social media. And it seems as though, like, of course, like what we mentioned before about like these museums and places being influenced by these sort of crazy policies. And it's like on one hand we have, of course, these crazy radical left extremists, trying to control like these kind of places. And then on the other side, we have Donald Trump, of course, doing what he's doing. And so it's almost like it's sort of like this year has been some sort of matchup so far between the both extremes. And so now more than ever, we need like some sort of middle ground for those kind of two things.
Yeah, yeah, it's like the only constant thing change. And right now, as far as Twitter, YouTube, college campuses, the left pretty much is the status quo. But the moment you're the status quo, I mean, after something is the status quo for a prolonged period of time, it becomes conservative. Like maintaining it would convert into the conservative position. For example, the people who want communism in China, they would be considered conservatives because they want communism in, well, not China, but I meant Russia. The people who want communism in Russia, communism used to be Russian, but like it's no longer a communist state. They are now no longer communist. They used to be. So the conservatives in Russia, they would be the communists. So it's kind of like the longer something is the status quo, the more it would be the conservative position, because then your goal would be to maintain the status quo. Then that would mean the progressive thing would be to change the status quo, which is the weird, ironic part because the status quo is so far left.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it like
conversation.
yeah, it's like sooner or later, like the next progressive thing will be like change the status quo. And so hopefully by changing the status quo in the future, it would be like a lot less extremism. But I don't have my hopes up right now though.
Yeah, because if the left is the status quo, then changing the status quo would be moving to the right, or what we see as right today. So it's kind of like because conservative is to conserve. Conservative comes from conserve. He wants to conserve things, but if you want to conserve the way social media is now, then the more and more they get their way and the more they want to maintain it, they will be conservatives. Then changing that would be the progressive thing to do. And the irony is that the left and the right would have to switch places again because moving for the right would be the new progressive thing to do.
Exactly. Oh man, like I
Because they
cannot.
already went as far as, at least culturally and socially wise, we are far left socially and culturally wise. So the only way to change the status quo would be to move further right, which in a way is kind of like it would mean that the left and right would be doing another great switch again. So what I expect to happen is for another great switch because like conservatives is the status quo is the right wing, and moving away from the status quo is supposed to be left wing. So it's kind of a lot like I wouldn't be surprised if we were like the Russians, where it's like if you believe all of these left wings things, well, like it's just gonna switch places.
Right. It's it's gonna be like very strange in the future. Very very strange. But anyway, we've been going on for 2 hours. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, don't worry. I did a live stream with Stuff Made Woman that lasted for 3 hours. And we also did a live stream on her channel, which also lasted 3 hours. So I'd spoken to her for like 6 hours in total.
Yeah. Wow. Huh. Okay. Well, right now I have nothing more to comment on, but
We
I
could
guess, Wait, what are you gonna say?
we could end it here if you want.
Sure, sure. Let's end it here. But you can follow my content on various social medias on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and whatnot at Tyler Preston 20. I basically talk about the content that we just covered in this live stream. And basically, I just do a bit of everything on my channel, so please check it out.
All right. I didn't leave all of your, well, not all of it. I didn't know you have an Instagram. I just went to your YouTube page and I copy pasted the social media. I saw some of your Patreon. I didn't put your Patreon down below because, well, this is my channel, but I did add all of your other social media
Yeah,
accounts.
like the Instagram is like something new, and I noticed that like it's getting pretty popular right now.
So everybody be sure to follow Tyler Preston on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook and whatnot. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.
Do, 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 do.